Picture this: a quiet evening, the kind where the world seems to hush itself just for you, and I'm standing at the edge of our backyard, staring at the old oak tree that's been there longer than I've been alive. Its gnarled branches twist toward the sky like they're reaching for something they'll never quite grasp. That's how I feel sometimes, reaching for something I can't name. My name's Rachel, and I'm 45 years old. A woman who's lived enough to know that life doesn't always hand you the answers, even when you beg for them. I've got dirt under my fingernails from tending to the garden out here in our little slice of suburbia, a place that's equal parts sanctuary and cage. My hands are rough, calloused from years of hard work, but they're steady. They have to be. Life with Brian, my husband, demands that kind of steadiness. Brian's 48, a man carved from grit and quiet intensity, with eyes that can pierce right through you when he's got something on his mind. We've been together for 22 years, a lifetime in some ways, and yet there are days I feel like I'm still figuring him out. He's the kind of man who fills a room without even trying, broad-shouldered and weathered from years of working with his hands as a contractor. When we met, I was drawn to that strength, that unyielding presence. He was my rock, and I was his anchor, or at least that's what we told ourselves. We built a life together, brick by brick, in this modest 2-story house with creaky floors and a leaky faucet that Brian swears he'll fix one day. It's not perfect, but it's ours. Or at least, it used to feel that way. I can still smell the faint scent of sawdust on him when he comes home after a long day, his boots leaving muddy prints on the porch I just swept. There's something comforting in that mess, a reminder that he's here, that we're still in this together. But there are other reminders too, ones that aren't so comforting. Like the way his jaw tightens when I ask too many questions about where he's been, or the late nights when I'm alone in our bed, the sheets cold on his side. I try not to dwell on it, but some nights, when the house is too quiet, my mind wanders to places I don't want it to go. I wonder if he's still the man I fell for, or if time has carved something new out of him, something I don't recognize. Our life isn't all tension, though. There are moments that still spark, like embers refusing to die out. Just last week, we were in the kitchen, me chopping vegetables for dinner, him sneaking up behind me with that sly grin of his. His hands slid around my waist, pulling me close, and for a moment, the world was just us. His breath was warm against my neck. The morning started like any other, with the faint glow of dawn creeping through the kitchen window, casting long shadows across the linoleum floor. It was 7:30 a.m., and I'd just waved Jacob off to school, his backpack slung over one shoulder as he trudged down the driveway to catch the bus. The house felt emptier with him gone, the quiet settling in like a heavy fog. I was rinsing out a coffee mug, the warm water running over my hands, when Brian burst into the room, a whirlwind of hurried energy. He was adjusting his tie, the knot slightly crooked, his brow furrowed with that familiar intensity. In his hand was a small, nondescript brown box, sealed tight with packing tape, the kind of thing you'd barely notice if it weren't for the way he held it, like it carried some unspoken weight. "Hey, Rach, I need a favor," he said, his voice clipped, almost casual, as if he were asking me to pick up milk on my way home. "I've got a meeting I can't miss, and this needs to be dropped off ASAP. It's for a business deal, nothing major, but it's urgent. Can you handle it?" He didn't wait for me to answer before pressing the box into my hands, the edges rough against my palms. Tucked under it was a sticky note with an address scrawled in his jagged handwriting, a warehouse on the outskirts of town, a place he'd mentioned in passing over the years, but never with any real detail. I glanced at the note, then back at him, catching the way his eyes darted to the clock on the wall. "I'm really pressed for time here," he added, already halfway out the door, his tone dismissive, like this was just another errand. I nodded, muttering a quick, "Sure," without giving it much thought. Errands like this weren't unusual. Brian's work often spilled over into our lives in small, mundane ways. I figured this was just another loose end for me to tie up. After he left, I stood there for a moment, the box still in my hands, feeling the weight of it. Light, but somehow heavier than it should have been. I shook off the odd thought and grabbed my keys, slipping on my sensible sneakers and a jacket to ward off the morning chill. The drive started out familiar enough, winding through the suburban streets I've known for years, past neat lawns and identical mailboxes. But as I followed the GPS further out, the scenery shifted. The houses gave way to cracked sidewalks and boarded-up storefronts, the kind of area where the air feels thicker, heavier, with neglect. Industrial buildings loomed on either side, their brick facades stained with grime, and the road grew rougher under my tires, gravel spitting up as I pressed on. My stomach started to twist, a subtle knot of unease I couldn't quite place. This wasn't a part of town I'd ever had reason to visit, and something about it felt off. When I finally reached the warehouse, I pulled into the empty lot, the gravel crunching under my tires like brittle bones. The building loomed ahead, a hulking mass of rusted metal and broken windows, the kind of place that looked like it hadn't seen a kind word in decades. I cut the engine, the silence pressing in around me, broken only by the distant hum of a flickering streetlight. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel for a moment before I forced myself to step out, the small brown box tucked under my arm. The air was heavy with the scent of dust and oil, a gritty tang that clung to the back of my throat as I approached the rusted door. It creaked open with a groan, like it was protesting my intrusion, and I stepped inside, my sneakers scuffing against the stained concrete floor. The interior was a cavern of shadows, lit only by the weak, stuttering glow of fluorescent lights overhead. They buzzed like angry insects, casting jagged pools of light across towering stacks of crates that seemed to lean in close, as if guarding secrets in their splintered wood. The floor was a map of grime, dark patches spreading like old wounds underfoot. My eyes darted around, taking in the vast, hollow space, and that's when I saw them. A small group of men, 3 or 4, lounging near a folding table in the far corner. Their silhouettes were sharp against the dim light, faces hard and weathered, like they'd been carved from the same rough stone as this place. They turned as one, their gazes locking onto me, unreadable and cold. A chill slithered down my spine, prickling my skin, as I stood there, feeling smaller than I ever had. One of them had a jagged scar slicing across his cheek, a pale line that caught the light like a warning. Another's sleeve rode up just enough to reveal the edge of a faded tattoo, ink blurred by time into something I couldn't quite make out. Their silence was heavier than the air, pressing against me, and I forced myself to speak, my voice bouncing off the walls with a faint echo. "Hey, I've got a package for Brian. Anyone here can take it?" The words felt clumsy, too loud in the stillness, and for a moment, no one moved. Then one of them stood, a tall, broad-shouldered figure, his boots striking the concrete with a deliberate thud as he approached. His shadow seemed to stretch longer with every step, and my pulse quickened, though I couldn't tell if it was fear or something else. He stopped just a foot away, close enough that I could smell the faint musk of sweat and tobacco on him. His eyes, dark and piercing, flicked over me before he spoke, his voice low, almost a growl. "There's something on your back." Before I could process the words, his hand reached out, brushing along my shoulder, his rough fingers lingering far longer than they needed to. My breath caught, an electric jolt shooting through me. Fear. Yes. But something else too, something forbidden, stirring deep in my chest. My body trembled under his touch, caught between the urge to pull away and a darker impulse I didn't want to name. I didn't have time to react before another man stepped close, his presence a sudden heat at my side. His breath was hot against my neck, and then I felt it. The slow, deliberate press of his lips against my skin, a gesture so bold it stole the air from my lungs. My eyes fluttered shut, overwhelmed by a wild, primal urge that roared through me, drowning out every shred of sense or morality I'd ever clung to. In that moment, I was lost, swept away by a current I couldn't fight. I gave myself over to it, to them, in a haze of reckless abandon, the warehouse walls blurring into nothingness around us. It wasn't about love, or even desire in the way I'd known it before. It was raw, untamed, a betrayal of everything I'd built with Brian. And yet, as shame clawed at the edges of my mind, exhilaration burned brighter, a fire I couldn't extinguish even if I'd wanted to. I'm not proud of what happened there, in that I'm still in that warehouse, the air thick with the weight of what I've just done, my breath uneven, my mind a tangled mess of guilt and something I can't quite name. The dim flicker of the fluorescent lights above casts eerie shadows across the concrete, and the silence that follows feels like it's pressing down on me, suffocating. My skin prickles with the lingering heat of forbidden choices, and I'm trying to piece myself back together when I hear it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, each one echoing through the vast hollow space like a drumbeat in my chest. My heart lurches, racing so fast I can feel it pounding against my ribs. I turn, almost against my will, my sneakers scraping against the grimy floor, and there he is. Brian. Standing in the doorway, his broad frame a stark silhouette against the harsh, blinding light pouring in from outside. He's holding his phone, the screen glowing faintly in the gloom, like he's been capturing something, preserving a moment I wish could be erased. I freeze, my throat tightening, my mind scrambling for something to say, some way to explain the unexplainable. But as my eyes adjust to the light, I see his face more clearly, and it's not what I expect. There's no rage there, no betrayal etched into the lines of his weathered features. Instead, there's something else. Something unnerving. His eyes, those piercing eyes I've known for over 2 decades, gleam with a strange, almost eager excitement. A smirk plays at the corner of his lips, subtle but sharp, like he's been waiting for this, like he's seeing something he's always wanted to uncover. My stomach twists, a sickening mix of dread and confusion, as I stand there, rooted to the spot, unable to look away from him. Before I can find my voice, he speaks, his tone low and deliberate, each word slicing through the heavy air. I wanted to see the real you, and now I have. Want more? The words hang between us, heavy with a meaning I can't fully grasp, yet they send a shiver down my spine. There's a surreal weight to them, like they're peeling back a layer of our marriage I never even knew was there, revealing something dark and hidden beneath the surface. I'm horrified by what he's implying, by the idea that he might have orchestrated this moment, but there's something else too. A twisted intrigue that tugs at me, pulling me toward an edge I'm not sure I want to cross. My mind screams at me to stop, to turn away, but my body betrays me. My head nods, almost imperceptibly, as if drawn by some invisible force, unable to resist the pull of this uncharted, dangerous territory. Brian steps aside, his movement casual, almost too calm for the storm raging inside me. He gestures with a wave of his hand toward the men still lingering in the shadows near the folding table, their hard faces unreadable in the dim light. It's an invitation, a silent command, and they move toward us with a slow, predatory ease. My breath catches, my thoughts spinning out of control as reality blurs into something dreamlike, something I can't fully comprehend. What follows feels like I'm watching myself from a distance, detached yet painfully aware of every sensation. I surrender again, caught in a whirlwind of shame and thrill, my mind at war with itself while my body seems to act on its own. It's as if I'm no longer in control, as if I've stepped into a current too strong to fight, letting it carry me deeper into this betrayal. The warehouse fades around me, the cold concrete and flickering lights becoming a hazy backdrop to the chaos inside me. I'm torn between the weight of my guilt and the intoxicating rush of giving in, each moment stretching into eternity, disorienting and raw. My thoughts race, a jumbled mess of questions I can't answer. How did we get here? How did I let myself fall so far from the woman I thought I was, the wife I promised to be? Brian's presence looms over it all, his smirk burned into my memory, his words echoing in my skull. Did he know this would? The drive home from the warehouse feels like wading through a fog so thick I can barely see the road ahead. My hands are clamped tight around the steering wheel, knuckles pale, as if holding on for dear life might anchor me to some sense of normalcy. Brian sits beside me in the passenger seat, his presence a heavy weight that fills the car with an unbearable silence. I steal a glance at him, but his face is a stone wall, unreadable, his eyes fixed on the passing world outside the window. The faint hum of the engine is the only sound between us, a low drone that seems to mock the chaos screaming inside my head. Streetlights blur past in streaks of amber, their glow smearing across the windshield like tears I can't shed. Every mundane detail feels wrong now, jarring in its ordinariness. The scuff on the dashboard I've been meaning to clean, the half-empty coffee cup rattling in the holder, the way my own breathing sounds too loud in this suffocating quiet. I want to say something, anything, to break this tension, but my throat feels like it's sealed shut, the words trapped behind a wall of shame and uncertainty. We pull into the driveway, the gravel crunching under the tires, and the house looms ahead, a familiar shape that now feels like a stranger's. We step out, still not speaking, the silence following us like a shadow as we move through the front door. Jacob's already home, sprawled on the couch with his headphones on, oblivious to the storm brewing between his parents. I force a smile as I call out to him about dinner, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. We go through the motions, setting the table, passing the mashed potatoes, asking about his day at school, but it's all a charade. Brian sits across from me, cutting into his chicken with mechanical precision, his eyes never meeting mine. Jacob chatters on about a science project, and I nod at the right moments, but my mind is elsewhere, replaying every second of what happened in that warehouse. The weight of it sits heavy in my chest, a mix of guilt that claws at me, and a lingering heat I can't shake, no matter how much I try to bury it. After dinner, I clear the plates, the clink of ceramic against the sink, a sharp sound in the quiet kitchen. Brian disappears upstairs without a word, and I'm left with the mundane task of wiping down the counters, each swipe of the cloth feeling like an attempt to erase something far bigger than crumbs. When I finally climb the stairs to our bedroom, the darkness feels oppressive, the air thick with everything we're not saying. I slip under the covers, the mattress dipping slightly as I settle in, and Brian's already there, lying on his back, his breathing slow and steady. But there's a chasm between us, wider than the few inches of space on this shared bed. I stare at the ceiling, my eyes tracing the faint cracks in the plaster while my mind spirals. Every moment from that warehouse plays on a loop, the shadows, the heat, the way I lost myself in a way I never thought possible. I'm drowning in the memory of it, in the way my body betrayed everything I thought I stood for, and in the look on Brian's face when he stood in that doorway, his words cutting deeper than I can understand. Did he mean what he said? Was this some twisted test, or something darker I can't yet grasp? The guilt gnaws at me, but so does that forbidden thrill, a whisper in the back of my mind that I can't silence, no matter how much I want to. Sleep doesn't come, not for hours. I lie there, listening to the rhythm of Brian's breath, Each inhale and exhale a reminder of the life we've built, the life I've jeopardized. My heart aches with the weight of it all, with the fear of what this means for us, for me. When the first light of dawn finally creeps through the curtains, I'm still awake, my eyes gritty and heavy. I turn my head, expecting to see Brian still beside me, but the bed is empty, the sheets on his side cool to the touch. A jolt of panic hits me, sharp and cold, as I sit up, scanning the room for any sign of him. The quiet of the house feels heavier now, more oppressive, like it's holding its breath along with me. I swing my legs over the side of the bed, my bare feet hitting the cold hardwood, and I shuffle to the window, pulling back the curtain just enough to peek out at the driveway. His truck is gone. No note, no text, nothing to explain where he's disappeared to. My chest tightens, a mix of dread and something I can't quite name, as I stand there, staring at the empty spot where his vehicle should be. That was the first morning after everything changed, and it's been days since then. Days that have stretched into a week with no word from Brian, no hint of where he is or if he's even coming back. I find myself at the kitchen table most mornings now, sitting in the same spot I've sat in for years. But it feels different, wrong somehow. Across from me, his chair is empty, a silent void that seems to mock me with its stillness. There's a cup of coffee in front of me, long gone cold, the surface reflecting the pale light filtering through the window. I don't even remember pouring it, but I can't bring myself to drink it either. My hands wrap around the mug, seeking some kind of warmth, but there's none to be found. The house is too quiet without him, without the sound of his boots on the porch or the low rumble of his voice calling out to me. Even Jacob notices something's off, though I've tried to shield him from the truth. I told him his dad's on a business trip, forcing a smile that feels like it might crack my face in two. He nodded, accepting it with the easy trust of a kid who doesn't yet know how to spot a lie, but I saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes. I hate myself for putting it there, for dragging him into this mess, even if he doesn't know the half of it. Every day, I check my phone obsessively, my thumb hovering over the screen, waiting for a message, a call, anything. I've lost count of how many times I've dialed Brian's number, only to hear the same lifeless voicemail greeting, his voice so familiar, yet so distant now. Each unanswered call chips away at something inside me, leaving a hollow space that grows wider with every passing hour. I don't know if he's avoiding me, if he's angry, or if he's just gone. That uncertainty gnaws at me, a constant ache that I can't shake no matter how much I try to distract myself with chores or small talk with Jacob. The truth is, I'm not sure what I'd even say if he did pick up. Would I apologize for what happened in that warehouse? Would I demand answers about why he was there? Why he looked at me with that strange, unsettling gleam in his eyes? Or would I just sit there in silence, too afraid to hear what he might say back? My mind keeps circling back to that day, replaying every moment in excruciating detail. I can still feel the cold concrete under my feet, the flickering lights casting shadows that seem to dance with my shame. I remember the heat, the rush, the way I let myself fall into something so wrong, so far from who I thought I was. There's a part of me that's drowning in guilt, in the betrayal of the vows I made to Brian all those years ago under a summer sky, surrounded by family and promises of forever. I think about the woman I was then, so sure of her path, so certain of her love, and I wonder how I strayed so far from her. But there's another part of me, a quieter, darker part, that doesn't regret it. Not entirely. There was a thrill in that moment, a raw, electric pulse that made me feel more alive than I have in years. It's a feeling I'm ashamed to admit I crave, even now, as I sit here in this empty kitchen, surrounded by the ghosts of a life I might have broken. I don't know if Brian will come back. I don't know what I'll do if he doesn't. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.